I'm Beth from Yarn Junction Company in West Des Moines, Iowa, and today we're going to show you how to make a basic worsted weight hat. Anyone can do it if you know how to knit and purl. So we're going to start out with a circular needle, size 8 16-inch round. You will need double points when we get up to the top, and you will also need a darning needle to weave in the ends. The yarn we've used is a worsted weight superwash from Brown Shoe Company, and we do have that available in the store. But any worsted weight yarn of your choice will work. The hat will start out with a 2x2 rib, plain knitting, and end up with decreases for the cast off. Hope you enjoy it. For our adult hat, we need to cast on 88 stitches. So I have about 2 yards of tail because I use a long tail cast on method. So I'm going to make my slip knot. That's going to count as my first stitch. I'm going to put it on my needle. I do have a 16-inch number 8 circular needle. And I'm going to do the long tail cast on and cast on 88 stitches. It's important that you do an even cast on so that the rim of your hat will be even. And then I use worsted weight washable yarn. We've chosen Brown Sheep Superwash because of the wool content, which makes it warm. And then I like the Addy circular needles. They just have a nice slickness to them. If you don't remember how to knit, I'm just going to show you these 2 stitches again, how to knit and how to purl. How to knit, our yarn starts out in the back. We go up the needle, around the back, down the needle, cross, and off. So because I have to do 2, I'm doing 1 more. Up the needle, round the back, down the needle, cross, and off. Those are the knit stitches. And if you look, you don't have any bumps in the front, you get bumps in the back, right there. Now, the purl stitch is just the opposite. These 2 are purl stitches, and do you see we have little bumps in the front? So I'm going to show you how to purl. You bring a yarn to the front, you go down the needle, counterclockwise, and then jump out the back. Make sure you take it off. So down the needle, counterclockwise, and then just jump out the back. Now, if you look at these, I've got 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls, and now I'm ready to knit. So if you ever forget where you are in your hat, you can always look back and say, oh, I just did purls and knits and purls, so I must be ready for knits. So my yarn's in the back, I'm going to do 2 knits. And we just continue on like that. So I bring my yarn to the front to purl, take my yarn to the, oops, I missed that guy, he slipped off. Take my yarn to the back to knit, and just continue ribbing. Now that I have my 88 stitches on, I need to join them in the round, so we will be continually knitting. In order to do that, you need to move all of the stitches so they fill the whole needle, so kind of point to point. And you also have to make sure that they're all facing the same way, so you don't have a rolled brim. So it's really important that you kind of move all the stitches so the baseline is all running and you don't have it twisted over the needle. I chose 88 stitches because we're going to do a 2x2 rib, which means knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 all the way around. And so you have to have a multiple of 4. And a normal adult hat is anywhere between 88 to 82 stitches total. So I chose the 88 so that we would have a multiple of 4. I'm going to put a marker here so I know when I've made it all the way around, so that when I'm done doing my rib, which I'm going to do about 1.5 inches of ribbing, which is our 2x2 knitting, then I'm just going to begin knitting in the round. So I've put a marker on. I like the little safety pin markers because you can unsnap them if you need to and move them. And then this was my slip knot. here's my working yarn. This is my slip knot. So I'm going to insert the needle into there, making sure all these guys are not twisted around the needle. And I'm going to grab my yarn, which is not my tail, and I'm going to just start knitting. So I'm going to do 2 knits. Now notice this is real sloppy right here. At the beginning of your second stitch, just tug it up. Did you see how that tugged up right in there? You also will use your tail to do seaming back and forth across there, but it's kind of nice to have it tugged up. So I'm going to knit 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. Bring my yarn to the front, and I'm going to purl 2 stitches. So I'm going to go, remember, a purl stitch is just a backward knit stitch. Now remember, when you knit, you take your yarn to the back, and you have 2 knits, and then 2 purls. And if you notice too in my knitting, I'm not using my fingers to poke, because after a while you're not going to like knitting because your fingers hurt. So I make my needle saw. Do you see how I make my needle saw in and out like that? So I make my needle do all of the work instead of my fingers. Now I do adjust, because you have to, because you're going in a circle, you have to keep moving these stitches up and these stitches down. Now notice, if you get worried about how these might be starting to wrap around the needle like that, they're all right doing that, because when you come around, they'll unwrap and be in total alignment. So I'm just going to continue doing my 2 knits and my 2 purls. And I'm going to continue this until I have 1.5 inches this way. So it'll take just a little bit to do that. For our hat pattern, we like to have a band that's about 1.5 inches from cast on. So I'm going to put this down and measure. And I measure so that the bottom, my 0, is down there. And you can see my 1.5 inches comes to about the top of the needle. So it doesn't matter how many rounds you go. A lot of people like to just have it in length for the band. We chose 1.5 inches. It could be 1 inch, 2 inches, whatever you choose. But if you also notice that I've got knitting stitches on knitting stitches and purling stitches on purling stitches. So if I was going to continue in my rib, I would knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. But because we have our band done and I'm back to my marker, I'm going to now just start knitting in the round. So every stitch I make now is in the round, and it'll just be knit. And you will continue this then for a total of 7.5 inches from cast on. So now that we have our 7 inches, and our 7 inches is measured from the cast on, which is down here, up to the stitches on the needle, we're ready to start our decrease round so that we have the crown of the hat. We need to knit to the marker, and there's our marker, which indicates the beginning of the round. So I'm just going to knit these 4 stitches and be at the beginning of the round. And then if you follow the pattern, you'll notice that we have knit 2 together, knit 6. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to slip my marker over here. So I'm going to take stitch 1 and 2, and I'm just going to knit them like they are 1 stitch. So I'm going to put my needle in this way right here. Take my yarn around the back and just knit those 2 stitches together. So I've done a decrease. And the crown of our head needs to have it decrease down like that. So we're going to do decreases around, then we're going to knit around. Then we're going to decrease around, and then we're going to knit around. At some point we're going to need to go to double pointed needles, but this first time I don't. So I knit 2 together, I knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you notice on your pattern, there's an asterisk. Knit asterisk, knit 2 together, knit 6, asterisk. Now that means we're going to repeat that. So I'm going to knit 2 together, and then I'm going to knit 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And because we have a multiple of 8, knit 2 together is 2 stitches, and 6 makes a total of 8. So you should come around to your marker where you will end up with knit 2 together, knit 6. And then as you read your pattern around, the next round is knit the whole round, then knit 2 together, knit 5. And that will help decrease all the way to the end. Okay, so far now I have been able to stay on my 16-inch circular needle with my decreases. I have done the knit 2 together, knit 6, and repeated that all the way around. Then I knitted around. And then I have done knit 2 together, knit 5, and repeated that all the way around. Then I knit around. Then I did knit 2 together, knit 4, and again, and then knit around. But I'm getting so that my stitches are further and further apart on my needle. So I'm going to have to go to double points. And so how you do that then is you need to look at this as a square, and you're going to put 1/4 of the stitches on each double point. And then you have a 5th double point that will be used to knit. So I'm going to show you that. My stitch marker will not be needed because I can go back to using my tail, and when you do double points, the stitch marker would fall off unless you had a hanging stitch marker. So I'm going to transfer over to double points. I am on the pattern where it says knit 2 together, knit 3. So I'm going to insert my double point, and I'm going to try and get this needle out of the way, and I'm going to knit my 2 together. Then I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, and then knit 2 together, and then knit 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do one more because that'll be about 1/4 of the amount. Knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to go to my next double point, and I'm going to start again. So this way I'm able to decrease and not be stretching my stitches. So I'm going to knit 2 together, and it's really important that between your double points, this tip to this tip, you do a nice snug so you don't have a gap. So I'm going to knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do that 2 more times, and I'll have about 12 stitches on. Knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3. Remember, it's important to keep sliding those stitches up around the needle so that you can get to them. Knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to repeat that again with my next double point. And I might need to just pull these a little bit so that they're coming off that needle. And eventually I'll be all done with my circular needle, and I'll only be on double points. So knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3, knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3, knit 2 together, knit 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'll have about that many to put on the last double point. And you can see then how I will have 1/4 of these on there. So I'm going to continue doing that, and we'll catch up with you in a second. Okay, now you can see we have all 4 of our double points holding all of the stitches. And I will use my 5th needle then to knit off of these stitches. This needle will fall out, and I'll knit these stitches here with this needle, and I'll show you that in a second. But I also wanted to show you, if I don't want to use my tail as my beginning, if you take one of these safety pins that kind of is a stitch marker but locks, you can just kind of hang it right here on a stitch, and then you know that you're all the way around to your beginning, because on this now I just need to solid knit. Then the next time I'm going to knit 2 together, knit 2, and keep decreasing down until I have only so many stitches left for the top of the hat. So I'm going to use my 5th needle, and my yarn is coming off of needle number 4. I'm going to, just now I'm just doing a plain knit around. So I knit these stitches onto my 5th needle. And when I get done, then you'll notice the needle in my left hand will just drop out. It won't have any stitches on it, and my right-handed needle will have all of the stitches that used to be on the left needle. Okay, see how that works? Now I'm going to take this needle and knit these stitches. And we just continue around with our 5 needles, making sure you give a nice little tug between the 2 needles, the one that you just knit from and the new one. Okay, I have done all of my decreases, and now I'm on the final round where I'm just going to knit 2 together, cut my yarn, put it on a darning needle, and draw them all through. So I want to show you that. So I'm starting again at my marker, and I'm just going to all the way around knit 2 together. So your needles have gotten a little bit closer together too, so it's a little bit more maneuvering, because I'm doing this all the way around, knit 2 together. Go to the next one. Kind of have to maneuver around the needles so that you can actually knit 2 together. But we're now at the very top of our hat. And I'll end up with about 12 stitches. I haven't counted yet, but that would be about the number. 8 to 12 is about the regular for a worsted weight hat. And I have a darning needle ready and scissors. Okay, last time I'm going to knit these 2 together. Gotta get my yarn so I can knit these 2 together. And now I'm all the way back around to my marker. And see, I've just got 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 stitches left. So I'm going to cut my yarn about 12 to 18 inches, put it on a darning needle, and it's important that you go the same way that you're knitting. So these would be the next stitches that I would be knitting. So these are the stitches that I'm going to take off first and just slide them onto my darning needle. And then I'm done with that needle. And I'm just going to bring them through without being wrapped around all these other needles. Just going to snug that up. Go to my next needle. I have 3 here also. I'm done with that needle. Go to these 3. And then the last 2. Okay, so there's the top of my hat. I just give a nice little snug. Then I take my darning needle down on the inside. Pulling it through. Give another little tug. Then I just weave in my end and clip the ends. Then also, this was the beginning. You'll need to weave in that end too. And then your hat is done.